How to cure hard flaccid and the golf ball in the gooch for good. Hard flaccid is one of those things that it is very complicated. It is multifaceted, meaning that there's neurologic issues. Sometimes you could even have like a disc issue in your back that you're not aware of. There's pelvic floor is a strong component of it. Sometimes there's just a psychogenic component. There's a sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous imbalance that can cause it. Certainly on this video, we're not going to have time. If I had one cure for hard flaccid, I would not be doing this, and I would be, you know, me and BD would have an island in Hawaii somewhere. But I do think a part of it, and leading to your second question about the golf ball and the gooch, is pelvic floor stretching. BD just made a video about pelvic floor stretching.
Yeah, it's like 50 minutes long though. I need to condense it.
Yeah, well, I watch it on 2x speed, but, you know, Kelly put the card up, you know, in this video for that. We'll have the link in the description as well. I, of course, have several videos, including my video, like, Stop Doing Kegels, where I go over, like, pelvic floor stretching routine. But essentially, a good pelvic floor stretching routine, in my opinion, is what you need, and you should be doing that once a day, you know, even if it's just like a 5-minute routine before bed where you're just doing some kind of basic stretching.
Now, for pelvic floor in particular, now this is the type of hard flaccid we're talking about, you will probably taught yourself to be in this tight state. So the more often you stretch it out, the better results you'll have. So you like, if you do it 2 to 3 times a day, you're gonna have much faster results for the first 3 weeks, and then drop down your routine to probably daily, so it doesn't come back. Because like, again, it's something that your body learned to be in this state, and you need to teach it to not be.
Yeah, and you know, my stance on this, because I'm actually not quite as anti-Kegel as I used to be. The key is to have basically like a strong but flexible pelvic floor.
You sounded like me.
Or you're sounding like me, because I've had these pelvic floor videos for years. But regardless, you have to have like the strength and the mobility or the flexibility.
The resilience.
So, yeah. So yeah.
All right, guys. So I trekked through the mountains to meet with Hank here for probably yearly visit. Probably should be more often, right? But anyway, we're going to just go through a Reddit post and answer those questions. The other half of this will be on his channel. Most of you guys are probably already subscribed, but you know how YouTube works at this point. So we're just going to get into it. Hank, do you have anything to add before we start?
Nah, let's do it.
All right.
Next one, it says, when vac extending, is there any advantages, disadvantages to using a silicone sleeve that covers your entire D? Like, would the friction of the sleeve hurt gains?
Mainly you just hurt your skin because you're compressing and then doing like minor friction the entire time. I prefer to have it like half the length of my, sometimes even like a fourth and fold it over itself if I'm not getting a good seal. But really it doesn't matter except for potentially aesthetics. That sleeve is not going to allow your skin to stretch that well. You could grow your dick and not the skin, and then it's just not going to look as pretty or as big as it would be otherwise. So yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have anything to add to that because I don't use a sleeve and I don't vac extend. So the next one says, I would love to know what an inconsistent week can do to your gains. Would it simply stall your gains by a bit, or can this cause strength adaptation?
I don't know how much we agree on strength adaptation, but if you're talking 3 days out of 6, you probably just are going to be even and stay the same size. If you like miss more than 3 days, we're talking 1 to 2 a week, is going to be like again, still maintenance, maybe even a little bit of loss in erection quality. But like if you're chronically overworked and you see your erection quality improve after that time, that means you need to figure out what the hell's wrong with your routine and why you don't have the same erections during that time.
I would agree with that. I definitely don't think that being inconsistent, really, I mean, short of depending on what you're doing, is going to cause any kind of like strengthening component. I think if anything is just going to stall your gains. In my opinion, like an inconsistent week is almost more like a maintenance week where you're not really gaining, but you're not losing. In my experience personally, like I've taken as many as 3 or 4 months off and I haven't noticed a significant decrease in my size. Maybe I'll lose like a little bit of flaccid size and a little bit of like just some of that, honestly, just soft tissue edema that I was holding on to that I didn't realize I was. If you're inconsistent because you are not being motivated and you're making excuses, and instead of doing like something you want to do, you're watching TV or Netflix or whatever, then do better. But if you're inconsistent because you're busy, you're traveling, life comes up, life happens, then just do, I mean, that's life. Do the best you can.
Yeah, and just real quick about strength adaptation, I really think it's vastly overblown unless you specifically train for it. Because like I will ping pong between 10 to 15 pounds of tension with vacuum extending, and like that would basically go away after a month off when I start back at 10. I've gained probably like 3/4 of an inch last year just doing it that way, and I didn't lose any size this year. I did lose a little bit of size from disease, like I had COVID, lost size from that. But that, yeah, like it fucking sucks. Like,
yeah.
But other than that, it's going to, you're going to lose maybe 2% of your length because you lost a little bit of flexibility, and that's it. So, like, that's if you take a week to 2 weeks off.
Yeah. And I mean, and just to be as clear as possible, I do believe in strength adaptation. Like, there is the evidence is abundantly clear that a stretch stimulus, or even any kind of stretch stimulus, stimulates collagen production. Okay, I do believe in it to an extent. It's just, once again, I think there might be some semantics that we disagree about.
I just think strength adaptation is largely overblown. Is really what I'm saying.
Which I've been saying for a while. For a while too.
So have I.
So the next one is top 3 manuals and top devices for beginners and experienced. In my opinion, there's really only unless you're talking about like the different angles of like manual stretching, there's basically manual stretching for length and like manual clamping using your hand for girth are the manuals that I'm familiar with. Maybe BD in his vast wisdom has some additional things. And so those are the only 2 that I really know of. Just, you got to be careful with manuals because it's user dependent and you don't know what strength you're pulling with, or some people get overexcited and just yank. It can be more prone to injury than other types of things. Be careful with that. And as far as the top devices for beginners, in my opinion, without a doubt, number 1 is going to be the actual, well, if we're looking at medical literature, I would say an extender, okay? An extender would be like the number 1 thing that has the most literature behind its effect in increasing the PP size, okay?
Coming soon to peak male physique.
Coming soon, peak male physique. And so number 2, I would say, would be a pump. I'm putting it at number 2 just because I do think there's more actual medical literature for enlargement for an extender. But I think a pump, you can do it safely, especially if you get a high quality pump with a gauge from peakmalephysique.com. But if you have a gauge, you know what pressure you're pumping to, and you actually listen to people and don't go crazy, it's safe and effective, and it can increase both length and girth. Number 3 for me would probably be, if I were to use a device for length, and I've said this for years, I would probably go with a compression hanger, just because I am deathly afraid of a vacuum cap induced blister.
They're not fun, but you manage.
Right. I mean, you get over it, and I realize it's kind of a phobia, but that's probably what I would say would be number 3. Male hangers are available on peakmalephysique.com. Otherwise, I would probably say actually a heating pad, just because I do think that there is an important safety and potentially gains benefit in warming up with either a heat pad or a warm washcloth, something like that, just to slightly increase your natural temperature. That would be my list.
So, for a beginner, if you're doing devices and manuals at the same time, my entire formula boils down to this. A little bit of massage, a little bit of elongation, a lot of elongation if you're going for length, and dependent on how much expansion you want if you're going for girth. So to get the massage mechanics, you literally just massage your dick. It just loosens up the tissue before you expand or stretch it, making the routine faster and releasing a little bit of growth factors that way as well. Then obviously you need elongation to grow length, and you obviously need expansion to grow girth. So massage mechanics is what I call it in general. Then I really like the Apex extender. We'll be having those at Peak Male Physique eventually, but if you want to get them immediately, check out massivenovelties.com. And then you'll need some kind of attachment mechanism. So you can male hanger or just cheap Chinese vacuum cups like we sell at Peak Male Physique would work. And then the penis pump is by far the most utilitarian tool I have. You get erection quality from it, you get girth gains from it. Some people will gain length. I did not have that great of experience with gaining length from it. But in general, it's probably the most fun tool, and it's probably going to have the most value to you long term.
So the next question says, who is winning in arm wrestling, BD or Hink? I would probably say BD.
Oh, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You guys can see
I
my
probably
arms.
got a bit more torque because his arms are probably 4 inches longer than mine.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't arm wrestle.
Nor do I. I got weak little programmer wrists. So the better question who would win 1v1. And if you see all these basketball shoes, it's probably clear who would be right now.
Oh, man, I would love to play BD. I would absolutely try to dunk on him. Even though my last time playing, I split down the lane. I thought I was doing good, went up to dunk, got hung on the rim so bad. Thankfully, I didn't fall, but it was very humbling, very humbling. And my ankle still hurts from playing over 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, I need to get back into it if we're ever going to do that.
Next question is there any tools that we can use to consistently and reliably measure?
No.
I mean, a ruler.
Yeah, but like there's so much room for user error, and trust me, I have made every single mistake publicly and embarrassed myself every single time. So just try to be as consistent as possible, keep your dick parallel to the ground, and then when you poke it into your fat pad, just make sure it's not at a crazy angle. That's all you can really do. Really track for yourself. If you're going to take pictures, just have it for yourself, and don't really worry about what people have to say online about if you do post.
Yeah. In my opinion, like the two tools that you should have. So this is Old Faithful, had this since I first started. My PE journey back was like literally July of 2020 was when I first started. But ideally you wouldn't want a flexible one like this because that is not good. You would want a nice sturdy like wooden ruler that you can measure length reliably. Like personally, I don't give a shit how anybody measures as long as it's consistent.
Yeah.
The problem is when like you'll have like, oh, you know, I was 4 inches in this non-bone press measurement, and now look, I'm 6 inches, and it's like because they've shoved it in their pelvic floor like 2 inches, and so it's just about being consistent.
To be clear, you cannot push it under the pubic bone.
Yeah, right.
You
I
push
said
it
pelvic
really
floor. I
fucking
meant
deep.
super pubic fat. You're exactly right.
You can push it really deep into your fat and bend the ruler to make it look longer, but like,
Yeah.
I only bring that up because I have people literally tell me that you can still, and I had to make a video
Yeah.
showing them that they were wrong. They still don't believe me.
No,
So
that was, I mean, as far as if you had a sharp enough ruler, you could, but then you'd have bigger problems. The other thing is that just some sort of like flexible tape that you can consistently measure like your girth with.
Yeah.
In theory, this could be something like this would be all you need because you can measure length, but then it's like, is the tape bent? You know, how far is it, are you bending it up at here? Like you could easily fudge measurements with this too. So
I was
nothing is perfect.
easily able to say I was like 9 inches with a Taylor's tape like that when I was only like 7.5, 8.
Yeah, so it really just depends. The other kind of measurement is if you're using like a pump and it has a markers on it, there is a way you can reasonably consistently measure if you have a gauge and you know that like, okay, I'm gonna pump up to 6 inches of mercury, I'm gonna wait 5 minutes, and then I'm going to measure. Like if you are consistent in that way, you should get consistent measurements, but that can vary depending on how much the fat pad you have as well. Like if you lost a bunch of weight, for example.
Actually, my fat pad didn't make that much of a difference.
So you would think that negative pressure like would push in and it gives
Yeah.
you essentially a bone pressed measurement, especially depending on what pressure you use.
Yeah, results may vary, but as long as you're consistent with that pressure, you're good. You can obviously cheat by going from 6 to 10 and get an extra quarter of an inch in length potentially. So just be honest with yourself.
Yeah. How much time per day should you spend doing manuals for length, and what is the most effective manual routine you have seen from people that have helped? Go for it.
I have literally 3 different posts on my manuals routine from 2024. One on Hub, one on my YouTube that's safe for work, and then one on the r/getting bigger. It's about 20 to 30 minutes long. You can go up to 40 with it, but once you get to 40, I would recommend devices because it becomes a pain in the ass. Other than that, you don't need to do more than an hour of PE in general per day. And like anything over that might actually hurt your gains.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, like if you were to ask me what is the absolute minimum time that you could do manual stretches and actually make meaningful gains, I would probably say about like 25 to 30 minutes a day, maybe 20 minutes. I just don't think that that's enough time under tension, anything short of that. And ideally, I think the ideal length time, if I had all the time in the world, I'd probably do about 45 minutes of manual stretching, but it gets so freaking tedious, guys.
That's all you get the device.
Yeah.
I typically do about 35 to 40 minutes of elongation, so that tracks. But one thing to just be clear, you got to work up to this. You can see pretty good gains actually of only 10 minutes, but it's going to be erection quality. And then you start adding more and more, and then you start building more tissue on top of that.
Yeah, just anything you do, guys, take it slow. If you're just getting into it, I would say start with 5 minutes week 1. Make sure you're doing okay. Then go to 10 minutes week 2. Be safe, be cautious when you do this.
Again, the other part of the video is going to be on his channel if you want more of it. You can get all of our products here at Peak Male Physique, and as you can see with that massive stack of supplements, we sell men's health products at leviathansubs.com to give you a boost for your sexual health. I sell books at Peak Male Physique as well. No pressure, you don't really need them. Hink has a course at whatever Hink's course is at. We'll put it in the description below, and we shall see you soon.
Yep. Thanks for letting me be on your channel.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming over, man. All right. Peace and love, guys.